Like when you're looking at businesses, what do you look for when you're trying to take on a new client?
So when I look at clients, I normally sit down with the business owners, and one of the first things that I do when I understand along a lot of things is, how do they show up? You know, and when I say how do they show up is, what do they do for their clients? What does the business stand for? If they have employees, how do they show up? And that sort of takes us on to today's subject, which is about core values and work ethic. And often in business, you don't think about that, but your values are ingrained in you. They sit inside you. But we never take the time to write them down or tell you about the behavior it personifies. So, Johnny, if I had to come to you and I go, core values are your defining principles and your work ethic, what does that mean?
Get a dictionary. Now, I think, all joking aside, people throw out the buzzwords for core values. Oh, I've got honesty, I've got integrity, all that. We're trustworthy, we're reliable. That's a given in any business. You must have all of that. For an analogy for everybody listening, my one would be, there's many of them, but authentic. What you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. And it served me very well in my relationship to business. You're not putting on something you're not. And I think it's really important to be relatable to people. Now, if you are the type of person who is a terrible listener and attitude's not great, well, your business is not going to survive. So it's a great indicator. If it's not working, it's because it's you. So authentic, that's me, authenticity for ourselves. And I think it serves us really, really well, because when I first met you, I liked the rapport that we built up. And then when there was an odd wee swear word in the conversation, I just knew, yes, I've got the real you now. And that's what I'm looking for. It's like any potential client you're seeing. When you start talking about the family elements and having kids or pets, going on holiday, and there's an odd wee swear word, or he or she shouts for downstairs, I'll be there in a minute, blah, 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 whatever it may be, you're building up that relatability, and that's a relationship. And it's built on the buzzwords from previously, trust, honesty, but it's coming from being authentic, and people can sniff someone that's been not authentic.
And you've just explained the value in the best possible way that I've ever heard the explanation, because you've given what the value is, authentic, but you've demonstrated the behavior that goes along with the value. And you know what happens is, when you start employing people, you want them to be authentic. Mm-hmm. You want them to display those behaviors, because people do smell a fake a mile away. And you can't have two personalities. Well, you could have multiple personalities, but in business, you can only have one personality. And your values are really your personality of your businesses. It'll define your culture. Mm-hmm. It'll define everything once you start taking on people. But you never think about writing it in the beginning. So, Michael, if we had to say to you, what is important in your business, if we had to do a little bit of a practical exercise?
Like friendly is one of them. Customer-centric. We do know they need to be served properly, customers. We've got loads of different diversity in clients that come in. So being tolerant is another big one.
Okay.
Resourceful, a lot of problem solving, a real can-do attitude. There's honesty and all that really is, it's easy to say honest, like you say in the last one, but if you're not honest, it will come out eventually. Quicker, more often than not. And accountable is a big one. As stuff happens, especially when you bring on staff, they're going to make mistakes. So you need to allow that to happen for them to grow. But if you've got someone making mistakes and trying to hide that and not being accountable for them, then that will cause its own problems in a big way. So that's another big one for us.
So if I had to say to you, we're looking at Michael's values, because you've just spoken about it, is accountability, own your own mistakes. So the value would be accountability. Like Johnny said, authenticity, what you see is what you get. For you, accountability, own your own mistakes. Tolerance, accepting everybody because you're dealing with lots of people, dealing with that. Resourcefulness, one problem, two solutions. Being friendly. Those are the types of words that your values, but you've just explained the behavior that goes around it. And that's what you want your business to stand for. Mm. So when somebody deals with your business, that's what they see. That's how you make them feel. And that's what people remember. We spoke in the previous episode that people understand or they value how you make them feel. And that's the power of a value. Values is what leadership is based on. It's the actions versus the words. Okay, so you could have honesty and integrity on your board. Okay, but if you're not honest if you're not honest, people will see it and they go, he's dishonest. Why does he have that value up on his board? People will see it. So it's the actions and the word, and that's what where leadership comes from.
That creates a culture. That's where you're really going, is you're creating a culture. So you are the culture of your business, especially when you first start up, because that is the core values, is what's on display is yours. And then when you start to bring on staff, that's when you need to get the right people in. And the culture that you're now coming from the top down into your staff is what is on show. But if you take on someone that's not got your culture, and their values are on display, it's not yours, it's theirs, that's when things will really start to fall apart.
And then you wake up one morning and it's not your values, you don't understand your business.
What's happening to your clients.
And Uber is probably one of the things where when they fired their CEO because he was creating a toxic culture within the business environment.
I've been there myself.
See, this is one of the ones, this goes back to even the basics again, the ABC rule, attitude and behaviour. You want the right attitude, the right behaviour, like you have, and the C stands for?
Competency and capability.
I call it cancer. You do not
Slightly
want...
different take on it there, Wicus.
But it is, you've got to think outside the box. You're talking about values, and you're talking about letting them show up. Your attitudes and behaviours are the values as well, with all these other words. But if you've got the wrong person, he's the cancer or she's the cancer, you cut it right out. You zap it and you get rid of it.
And that is where it becomes so important that you have defined what your business stands for.
And you let everybody know the rules. Yeah. This is the rules working in this environment. These are the rules. Stick to the rules and we'll be fantastic.
This is how you show up. And you do that repetitively. If any of your staff, Michael, were rude to a client or said, hey, it's not my mistake, how would that make you feel?
It's not acceptable. And the thing is, I don't have that problem, but it is just getting better at taking on the right people and getting good at firing people. Because if it's not right, then, you can't just suffer fools.
And the interesting thing about values is in business, when we look for new staff, we pay so much attention to skills, knowledge and experience. All those things are learned and they trade. We don't look for values, we don't look for attitude, and we don't look for behavior. And if we recruit it based on those things, you will have an engaged workforce, you will have a high-performing team, but we focus so much on skills, knowledge and experience, and we don't know if they're the right people for us.
And we're worried that we have to take everybody on because we're struggling. No, get really good at hiring and get tremendous at firing. And it sounds really simple, but you'll learn that journey over a period of time by failing a few times. You'll pick yourself back up.
The skills and experience, and that you can teach that. They'll gain experience as they go. It's just having the right attitude and the right mannerisms and the right values that align with what your values are.
So this goes back to the very initial stages as leadership. What does a good leader look like? What do they do? How do they turn up? How do they show the best version of themselves? So for any listeners out there, are you a good leader? Do you want to become a good leader? And what attributes do you need to display and show? And you need to feel them as well. But everybody needs to see them. And again, that will be in the membership where you can see all these things. But one thing I would want to say, if you can, I would like you to share the link of that brilliant film with Al Pacino, Scent of a Woman. Scent of a Woman.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're trying to explain is, if you look at the clip in the link, Al Pacino does, it's right at the end of the movie when he defends young Charlie. That is what values are about and how you show up. And he really puts that organization to shame because they profess to have a set of values, but the way they show up is completely different to what they say. And that's what we really want to try and display to you. So think about it, write them down, take several iterations of it, but it is good to think about it because this is how your business will show up and it'll stand you in good stead later on in your business.
That's a powerful scene, actually. I know the one you're talking about.
I'm glad because I shed a tear to a glass eye. But
So, scent
I
of a
would
woman,
just
eh?
leave
Scent of a
it.
woman.
Scent of a woman. It is phenomenal, that speech. And whoever wrote that was brilliant.
It wasn't
Hit the nail on
acted
the
too
head.
bad either. Eh?
He's, that was my acting of, hoo-ha. But if we're going to finish this episode, we need to tell everybody what's the next episode's about. Does anybody know what it's going to be about?
Yeah, so next episode links very, very closely back for us what we spoke about direction of travel, about understanding why you're in business. It deals with your vision. What is your vision for this business? The big picture, where you eventually want to be. Not necessarily in 3 years, but maybe 5, 10 years. The long-term picture, the big, hairy, audacious goals. That's what we're going to be talking about and why that is important in your business.
Why don't we look at the vision of this business, the Business Babble? We can have a discussion on that.
We'll have a discussion of, that'll be very important to us, our vision, what we are trying to achieve, and it'll be an interesting case study.
Well, I would like to see this from the Bahamas. For
From
life.
a hammock.
So if we're going to finish on, what is the finishing quote today, Mike?
Well, this is your world, shape it, or someone else will. And it's written by, I can't mind it.
Oh dear.
I keep forgetting to get it, and I've got it in the house, and I will get it.
Eventually.
Before the 100th episode, you will know, because we need to give credit where it's due.
No, absolutely.
But we do like it.
Oh, there we go. Well, until another episode. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.